First of all, a very warm welcome to South Devon College, and particularly into our high-tech and digital centre. Some of you may already have been in here and know it well. For others, it may be a bit of a while since we opened it in 2019 and didn't use it for too much for about 18 months, and for some of you may be new. So a really, really warm welcome. My name is Lawrence Fruin, and I'm really pleased to be able to say that I'm not able to use technology, that I'm the principal at South Devon College. And thank you all, firstly, for coming tonight. It's great to see so many people here on a great summer's evening, and I'm pretty sure that you're going to have a really interesting evening. So I'm going to do the hosting and introduce three really interesting guests. We've got Hannah Rundle, the operations manager from Eat That Frog. We've got Alan Welch, deputy programme manager from Torbay and South Devon Healthcare NHS Foundation Trust, and Nick Powe from Torbay Geopark and the managing director of Kent's Cavern. So I'll hand over to them shortly. So the running order, I'm going to just do a bit of an introduction and a reminder about what this is all about. What is the Torbay story? A bit of a refresh, or for those of you who are not so familiar, hopefully let you know a bit more about it. What the role of Torbay Champions is as well. And then I'm going to hand over to our speakers who are going to talk to you over the course of the evening. And we'll take questions after each bit. So if there's anything you want to discuss collectively, that's great. I may not be able to answer the questions for you personally, but I know someone who can. So it'll be an Ask the Audience moment. But we'll try and answer those questions. Any we can't answer, we'll take away and find that out and come back to everybody. So let's start with a bit of a recap about our Torbay story, because it's really important. I think those of us who are here, those of us who've been involved with this, we're doing it because we really care about where we live. We're really passionate about Torbay, and we want to do something to really change things. I think it's some of the most exciting times that we're in now, and I feel very optimistic for the future. Both as a resident, I live in Brixham, and someone who works in Torbay, whose children have grown up here and work here as well. So for me, it's also personally really important, but also important for the organisation. And that's what our story is about. It's about having a really clear message and something that we can share with other people and bring alive why it's such a fantastic place to be. So that's the compelling part of Torbay as a place, the compelling part of the story, bringing it alive for people. We want to showcase Torbay as well. There are lots of great things happening here, and sometimes we forget that. Probably we don't, because I don't think we'd all be here in this room if we didn't believe that there are fantastic things going on and more to come. But we need to tell people about it. And we need to share that. And when I meet people from outside of Torbay and I tell them about the high-tech cluster, for example, and some of the other things going on, they are genuinely surprised. And we want people to come and work with us, be the employees of the future, the leaders of the future, bring their families, live here, have fun here, enjoy their lives here, as well as work and help us to develop our economy and to see Torbay grow and prosper, because that's what we're really trying to gain from all of this. So the story is that focal point. We've got something that we can use, that we can all share, and allow us to bring it alive with those people that we're talking to, whoever it may be, whether it's central government politicians, people in other areas that we're encouraging to work with us, maybe in a collaborative way, inward investment. The list will be endless, but also for visitors, people to come and see us, but for people who may want to relocate as well. And I think, for me, passion and enthusiasm is really important. The story is really clear, but it's also how we tell that. So we want to make sure that we kind of really unleash that passion and share that with everybody and give that real insight and bring alive the drive that we've got here in Torbay. So there are three themes, just to recap on what is the story. So the overarching themes for Torbay are Tech by the Bay. So that's often a surprise for people. That's a great shot, isn't it, with Brixham reflected in the glass. I think that must be the environmental lab over there. It's absolutely fantastic. But people don't know what's going on. So that's the first overarching theme. The hub for active adventurers. I think we all know what great natural geography that we've got here, what great resources, the sea that you can come to work, you can paddleboard before, you can go for a run along the coast path, you can cycle in, you can access Dartmoor. It's a fantastic area to live. And the premier marine and natural experience. So that's very much about when you come here, that's what we offer. As a place, that's one of the most obvious things. And when you drive along the seafront towards Torbay from Paignton, it just looks fantastic. Or when you're in Brixham walking along the breakwater and the sun setting, I can't think of a better place to be. So Torbay, the premier marine and natural experience, tech by the bay, and the hub for active adventures. So we're trying to appeal to a whole range of audiences and individuals. And each of our 3 towns has got their own particular theme as well. So for Brixham, a creative food and fishing fusion. We all know Brixham has got the largest value of catch in the country. The fishing industry is significant. We're seeing more really interesting, really well thought of restaurants appearing, and there's a lot of creativity as well. So it's trying to just bring that alive with the message. Paignton, family fun on the foreshore. So that's about a really great family holiday experience. And something we know what the offer is in Paignton. It's really exciting and somewhere that families can come and enjoy themselves and have a great time. But also the Centre for Enterprise Electronics and Entrepreneurship. We're seeing the high-tech cluster, for example, grow. We're seeing lots of things changing as well in tourism and hospitality and the leisure industries. The world's very different. We have to change our offer. But we also have to make sure that people know what else is going on and the high-value jobs and the opportunities and the growth that can come. And that is a surprise when I tell people about that. They almost don't believe you. And then Torquay, leading on leisure and lifestyle by the sea. It's a really amazing place to go, and the exciting investment that's going in through the town deal, for example, the exciting work that's being done to improve the look and the feel of Torquay for residents and visitors alike. There's lots to look forward to, and it really hasn't been a better time with money coming into the area. So Brixham, a creative food and fishing fusion. Paignton, family fun on the foreshore, but also the Centre for Enterprise Electronics and Entrepreneurship. And then Torquay, leading on leisure and lifestyle by the sea. So that's the story that we're telling. There's lots of images available, and you can find out more if you go to torbaystory.co.uk. You can read the storybook. You can watch the videos, which really help to bring it alive, and also some of the people who are telling that story as well. And there's free branding assets that can be used, photographs and the like. So please do make use of those for your own business and for encouraging others as well. So the role of the champion, so thank you for being here. Thank you for feeling like champions. I feel like we should play Queen at this point, but you definitely don't want to hear me sing. But what's the role of the champions? It's pretty simple, and it's there on the screen. It's about us promoting Torbay and the story. It's about us making sure that we learn what there is here. Are we surprised by things? You know, some people still come to South Devon College who've lived in Torbay their whole life, and they're really surprised. Sometimes they don't even know where we really are. When they walk through the door, they're surprised. We don't want people saying that about Torbay. We don't want them coming here going, actually, well, this is a shot. Let's make sure we tell them and encourage them to come and see it for themselves. But we need to learn ourselves what those great opportunities are, what those amazing assets, those stories that are hidden that we may not be aware of. And to be advocates. When we talk to anyone, every time we talk to somebody, that every single individual interaction, people will take away an impression. And if we don't make that a positive impression, they may not come back. So we only get that chance to do it. But if we're talking to politicians, if we're talking to potential investors, friends, you never know when they may come back and go, do you know, you made it sound so lovely, I think I might move down here. And that does happen. We want to connect, we want to network, we want to make the most of those relationships that we have all got, the power of networking. We all know how important that is. And we need to do that not just within Torbay, but further afield nationally and hopefully internationally as well, because there is a lot of interest, for example, in the electronics industry at the moment from overseas investors, and get involved, engaged. So hopefully that's a reasonably quick but not too fast canter through and a reminder of the Torbay story and the role of champions and what we're here to celebrate and take forward. Are there any questions that anybody has on any of that at this point? Well, that's good. So I think if I can, I will, without further ado, hand over to Hannah, who is the operations manager for Eat That Frog. Hannah, thank you.
Right, so you have to bear with me. So is it pressing up, down? Lovely. So thank you for inviting me today. It's great to be here. And I think for us, for those of you who haven't heard about Eat That Frog before, I can introduce you to who we are. But we were born in Torbay, so we've got a great story to tell how we started in Torbay and how we've developed and what our future plans are. So I've put a few videos in here. So first of all, so the first thing everybody asks me about Eat That Frog is where did our name come from? We do try to be quirky, we like to do things differently. So Eat That Frog, it's just a metaphor for tackling the most challenging task of your day. And Mark Twain had a quote, which is, if your job is to eat a frog, it's best to do it first thing in the morning. And it's your job to eat 2 frogs, it's best to eat the biggest one first. So it's all about working with people within our communities to look at what their frog is and can we support them to overcome that frog. So whenever we interview anyone for any of our roles within Eat That Frog, that's one of the questions we would ask people, because we just kind of want to know, do they understand what we mean by Eat That Frog? And it's something we do with all our learners, whatever age they might be, because everybody's got a frog. So that's where we come from within our name. So before I go through, I just wanted to give you a little bit of a video overview. We do lots of things at Eat That Frog, so I thought if I did an overview video, you could get an idea of what we offer. Oh, it's disappeared. Keep going down. Sorry. Sorry. Oh, do I have to press play? Oh my gosh, sorry.
Life is a winding road, no telling where it goes. Driving through days and nights, won't stop for traffic lights. And I really wanna know if I will ever figure out where the road goes. Even if I'm falling down, I will keep on searching for my highs. You can say I lost my mind.
So our videos, so everything we do, we try and get our learners to put together. So all our videos that are produced are put together by our learners. I've skipped one, so I'm just going to go back. So our mission and background. So we were established in 2011, and that timeline I think was meant to come a little bit later, but that's cool. So since 2011, we have grown with Eat That Frog. So we decided to set up a mix of directors from education, healthcare, supported employment and learning disability services. And they came together to see what could we do differently. There's a lot of needs, there was a lot of challenges within Torbay, and they wanted to change things and see how we could address those and move things forward. We're a community interest company, and that works for us. We've got a really, really small management team. The decision-making for Eat That Frog's quite simple. We can change things around quite quickly, and I think that's what makes us different, and we never want to move away from that. We see what's happening in our communities, and we can change things up and change them around to meet those needs. So, and the whole reason we were set up in the beginning was to challenge what was in place already within Torbay in 2011. So our mission, as I said, we're established by like-minded people coming together to set up a social enterprise, and we're very much based around people, values and quality, and working with people to identify and overcome their barriers to living a more fulfilled life, and we do that through education and skills. So we don't want that again. Right, so we set up in September 2011. The reason Eat That Frog was set up originally, we were approached by an over 50s day centre in Paignton, which is at the Pad by Victoria Park, and that was going to close. So Ian, one of our directors, we've set up the Pad. We started looking at community and grant funding. And we worked with the Department of Work and Pensions to put on some employability provision. So we very much worked on local grants. And once we've done that, that started running quite successfully. We were approached in Plymouth to pick up another community interest company, which was called Grubs Up. So it supplied food to older people. And then we worked on the concept that there's lots of young people in the Bay. And could we set up a training provider where the young people would provide the services? So at the Pad, we had a community cafe, which was run by young people. And in Plymouth, we also had another community cafe, which was run by young people. And those young people have turned into where we are now. We have, we work with young people aged 16 to 18 with educational healthcare plans. And we specialise in social, emotional and mental health. So it's how to work one-to-one with young people to move them forward. We're a specialist education provider, so we provide one-to-one education. And for us, it's about, like, they can have one-to-one education with us, but it's how to move them forward. And I think very much when we set up, it was like, oh, what daycare service are you going to go to in the future? Like, let's pick a daycare service. But that's what we've tried to change. We've tried to change, there's lots of different careers out there for people. If we can work one-to-one with them and put on some bespoke education, what can they do? What's their future? How can we train them to get towards that future? So that's been working amazingly well. So main adult education centres now. So we set up in 2011 in Torbay. We now have centres, we never forget our roots. We've got the centre in Paignton. We've got some outside space at Parkfield in Paignton where we do lots of horticulture and little community projects. We've got 2 centres in Torquay. We've opened a new centre up in Newton Abbot Town Centre, which is great. We're opening a super centre in Plymouth this September, the new academic year, and we've also started some delivery in Exeter. But everything we've done and how we've been successful with the adult education budget is from what we've done within Torbay, and very much all our programmes and all our courses, we have small groups, but they're all fixed around community projects and moving people forward, so getting people doing the practical work, getting the practical skills to move them forward. So we've got a mix of provision with adult education. We started being a subcontractor to another organisation delivering, testing out adult education, but we have our own quite large budget now for this, which is great. And we very much work with the job centres to put on sector-based work academy placements, which is to taste what it's like to work in a specific sector and bring employers in to recruit job seekers. Construction, we work really closely with Princess Trust because it fits with the young people that we work with at Eat That Frog. So we do a team programme. We do a little bit around self-employment, and then I've just listed other things. I think very much our adult education budget, when I say we're a community interest company, we look at what the gaps are. So at the moment we're doing some engagement work with some groups of Ukrainians to know about Torbay. So we do a little lesson on, or a little session on get to know Torbay. So we drop at the Geopark, and then we'll go to the leisure centre, just so the local library, so they can really get to know their local area. And that's kind of what Eat That Frog is all about with our adult education, and we change up our offer quite a lot. So every 3 months we're offering something quite different. So that's our adult education budget. Woohoo. Pressed it the right way. So, and the other project we had is post-16 or alternative education provider. And I think this is a really important part of Eat That Frog, and it's probably where most people know who we are and what we can deliver. So we started this within Torbay, and we now deliver this quite a lot of places in the southwest. And it was all about, like I said earlier, and it really sticks with us, about the day service people want when they're older. So it's all about transforming the education and skills for young people. It's post-16 ESFA SEM provision. So it's we're an alternative education provider, and it's all about bespoke one-to-one education. And I just came to the college earlier, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. It really is amazing here. This venue's great. Eat That Frog, if you see our centres, our centres, it's just a different educational setting. So for us, a fantastic outcome for one of our post-16 SEN learners is to come to the college or to go and do an apprenticeship. But sometimes it takes a little bit of time to travel on a bus with somebody or bring them into the cafe at the college. And to get them to the college, and then once they come to the college, then continue their education. It's just sometimes it's a little bit big, isn't it? For someone like me, I think it's a great environment to learn in, and I didn't realise how much you have on offer at the college until I came today, so it's great. So I'm going to take that back, and I think for us, it's knowing the young people in Torbay, it's amazing what they can do. The facilities we've got here and the education we've got here and the outside space and everything else is amazing, and I think that's what's important about Torbay, and for us, that's where we come from. We were set up in Torbay. So, and this is just a slide to say different projects that we've been involved with, and so we're part of the voluntary and community sector within Torbay, and you might know, you might not know, the voluntary and community sector in Torbay is massive. There's loads of organisations in the Bay. We're part of those partnerships. We attend a lot of network meetings. There's a lot going on for local people at the moment, so it's all around food banks, health and wellbeing support. We've got some digital schemes that Torbay NHS has funded us to do to offer data and digital devices to people within Torbay and our communities. So I think if anybody's got any questions around the support out there, there's a lot of support for local people, and sometimes I think people don't get to know about what's going on, but there is some great work within the voluntary and community sector within Torbay. So there's community fridges around. So community fridge, we have a community fridge at the pad in Paignton. So a community fridge, if you haven't heard of it, is all about reducing landfill. So you've got the big employers like Morrison's and Sainsbury's within the Bay. So they give us their surplus food. So we go and collect their surplus food. We put that surplus food into our community fridge. And then anybody within the Bay or wherever can come and take that. So that's for our staff, that's for our community. And then our young learners run that community fridge. So it's all about their life skills and moving them forward. So if you don't know about the community fridge and things like that in the Bay, there's a lot. And if we're thinking of investment and things to come to Torbay, there's a lot of support out there for our communities. I could talk forever about Eat That Frog. So I mentioned Eat That Frog. We started in Torbay. We've developed to other areas. We've got some great plans for the future, but I think our biggest development at the moment is we're offering a touring scheme over in Gran Canaria. So Gran Canaria, the touring scheme is for a group of 10 young people. When I talk about young people, for us, for the touring scheme, it's 16 to 25. And it could be a young person we're working with an educational healthcare plan, or somebody who's on the Princess Trust Team programme. So they get to spend 3 weeks over in Gran Canaria. If you watch the video, it reminds me of something that's on TV at the moment about being away abroad, but it's nothing like that. It's for young people to experience three weeks in another country. So if you think about that journey, they've got to get a passport, they've got to think about food, they've got to think about their clothes, they've got to think about travel. It's all those independent skills that maybe they haven't thought about before. It's getting to the airport, when you get there, when you arrive at the villa, so they share a villa. There's lots of safeguarding involved with this, but they share a villa. And do you know what I mean? But it's just living together, they cook together, they've got to get up in the morning, they've got to be clean, you know, things like that. And then they get to do great stuff. So they've been doing some work in a banana plantation. We've been doing some community projects. They've been cooking in a hotel, preparing foods and serving people in the hotel. And they've been doing loads of fun stuff, so going out for meals. They've also been experiencing alcohol, because those who are over 18 can drink, and that's the reality, isn't it, of young people. We'd much rather introduce it in a controlled environment than a not controlled environment. So Gran Canaria is our new thing, and also we were amazed. Two of our directors are over in Gran Canaria running the project. The challenges of the youth in Gran Canaria is quite similar to Torbay. So the plan is to switch that up now, to look at what's worked, sending our young people to Gran Canaria, and is there something we can switch that up to come and like Torbay. So that's quite a big deal if we get that in Torbay. So I'll just play you a little video. And as I said, with all our videos, think about it. Our students put lots of our work together because they come and do digital skills with us. So it's of different quality. So I'll just finish up with playing this. Can't remember, it's Dana, isn't it? Okay.
I think I've seen like a level of maturity in some of them that we've not been able to see before, because we've seen them take part in activities and do things around the villa that obviously we wouldn't have observed them doing like in their own home, because we don't see that, and they've not necessarily had the same opportunities in the centre. So things like their independent skills and looking after themselves and looking after the house and looking after each other.
Le presto mi piel en invierno. Hoy yo te invito a todo mi hermano. Vámonos pa'l puerto. Vámonos, vámonos al país de la maravilla. Vámonos, vámonos a robarle un besito a Alicia.
It's good to get away from other places, and it'd be good to come here instead of somewhere else. Yeah, because you get to try different things, like every other day or every day. You get more enjoyment out of trying different things every day.
Candela pa todos, candela la vida.
Showing like a new level of maturity and leadership, which I wouldn't have expected of them, which is really good to see from people who you do expect good things of.
Their confidence has definitely grown. Like, I mean, Dan, like asking for the check at restaurants in Spanish and trying foods like rabbit.
Sabes que te quiero.
Being away from my family for, I guess, a long period of time, the different things I've had to overcome, I've learned that I don't have to rely on others and that I can be more self-sufficient.
And actually, when you ask the learners what their highlights have been, for some of them it is quite surprising, and it is things like the hike, which they might not have been looking forward to as much. In that short amount of time that we've been here, we've seen changes in learners that we didn't know beforehand, definitely.
Hoy quiero darle cariño a quien más lo necesita.
Oh, where that's come from. So that was just a little taster of Gran Canaria. So we're in season 3. So I think we've got 11 young people out in Gran Canaria at the moment. They're due back in a couple of weeks. They've all arrived. It's all good. We didn't have any delays at the airports. But so it's just to give you a taste of, we've come from the Bay. We work with a lot of young people in Torbay, and there's so many opportunities. And I think it's, if we can just keep raising awareness of what support and what organisations are out there for our young people. Our future is very much around we're not going to grow, we're just going to continue doing what we're doing. So we've got Gran Canaria, we're launching a new centre in Plymouth, and we're extending some of our provision within the Exeter area. Thank you. I don't even know if I had 10 minutes. My watch has stopped, but thank you.
Hannah, thanks very much. Does anyone have any questions for Hannah about Eat That Frog or anything they've seen in the presentation? Okay, you got away with it as well, Hannah. Oh, sorry. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, so Powe 16, yeah, absolutely. So local employers, so we work with a lot of probably smaller employers where we can get a more one-to-one approach. But yeah, if there's work opportunities, we do that.
Okay, thanks, Hannah. Sorry, over there.
So our Powe 16 education is through the local authority. So it's the local education authority, so Torbay, Devon and Plymouth. All our other programmes come from a range of referrals from different stakeholders. We work quite closely with the centres and other partners.
Great. Thanks, Hannah. Thank you for your questions. Any other questions at all?
So Powe 16, it's probably 2 to 3 years. So I think probably then go on to progression to somewhere like here, but we
Thank you. Okay. Hannah, thank you so much. It was a really great presentation. So we're going to move on now to Alan Welch. Alan's the Deputy Programme Manager for Torbay and South Devon Healthcare NHS Foundation Trust. I always have to read that because it's such a long title. And Alan's going to give us an overview of the Building a Brighter Future programme. So thank you, Alan. Over to you.
Yeah, I'm glad you read out that name, so I didn't have to. So yeah, I'm the Deputy Programme Director for our Building a Brighter Future programme within Torbay and South Devon NHS Foundation Trust, and I'm an accountant by background. I always feel like I've got to say that, like some sort of dirty confession that I've got to get out. So if you're imagining a boring man in a grey suit, let's hope not, okay, but you can tell me after. So Building a Brighter Future is a name we give to one of our transformation programmes within the organisation, a big investment programme that we're running. Nationally, you may hear it referred to as the New Hospitals Programme. The government's plan to build 40 new hospitals around the country. So that is one part, if you like, of our Building a Brighter Future programme, which is about a lot more than just building new buildings. But I'll tell you a bit more about that as we go through. So, and I've got Emily Taylor from my team here, who's our comms and engagement lead, and she can have the unenviable task of keeping me on track, making sure I don't tell any lies or mislead anybody, okay? And I'm about to tell two whoppers now, right? So don't throw anything at me. But this first sentence is not quite true. So it says here that we've been given a share of 3.7 billion. So it's not quite true to say we've been given a share, okay? We've been earmarked to receive a share of 3.7 billion. And I bet it won't end up being 3.7 billion either. That's the second lie, because building hospitals is an expensive business. So I suspect we're up to probably, the assessment's probably double that nationally already, and probably go north of that, I imagine, with inflation being what it is. So I think the government plan to spend a massive amount of money on hospital buildings, essentially, over the next sort of 10 or more years. And in Torbay, we're lucky enough to have been earmarked to receive a good chunk of that money, so I'll come on and say a bit more about that. So that, for us, is big money and it's massive investment, and that's going to come into Torbay and South Devon. That's a massive once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for us, really, to invest in our buildings and in our organisation in other ways as well, to improve the services that we deliver for the people of Torbay and South Devon. For us, this isn't just about building hospital buildings, it's about far more than that, and I'll come on and say just how we see it. We want to explore opportunities really at this time to deliver services in a new and different way. We want to deliver care close to people's homes in different settings, using modern techniques, modern technology, in a way we've not been able to up to now. But we've got an investment opportunity here which can radically change, I think, the way that we operate as an organisation. I think that's important for our patients, obviously, and our service users. It's important for our staff as well. Our staff are so limited by trying to deliver care in buildings that just aren't fit for purpose. They're antiquated, they're very, very old, some of our buildings, and they've got digital systems that are much better, frankly. And so we need to invest massively in our systems and our digital capability as an organisation as well. So what you'll see out of this programme over the next 10, and none of this is going to happen overnight, okay, so, and part of getting access to that mega millions of money that we're talking about is we've got lots of hoops to jump through over the next couple of years to make sure that we get that money, okay, so we've got to prove that we're going to use it in the right ways. But what we will do, if we do that successfully, is we'll be able to invest in our estate, that's in our buildings, our physical buildings, mainly on the Torbay Hospital site, and we'll be able to invest in our digital systems as well. So the hospital runs on many clinical systems, many administrative systems. They've been bought over the years, piecemeal, higgledy-piggledy, put together, and a lot of them are kind of end of life and need to be replaced, really. So that's part of what we're aiming to do. So, as I say, it's not going to be a quick programme. It will happen over 10 years. And probably everything I'm saying to you now, this is a story at a point in time. And I should say it will change, because the nature of these programmes is, there's delay, the money takes time to come through, visions change, requirements change. And so this will be an evolving story. So the promise I should probably make is that I'll come back and tell you the latest story and the true story as we go forward in the coming years, maybe. So at some point, we dream of the day, when actually we're not talking about theory and what we would like to do, but we actually start sticking a spade in the ground and digging a hole and building something or replacing a digital system. We can't wait for a couple of years down the line and actually see that change happen, because we know it's the people of Torbay that are really going to benefit from that. So we're committed to involving patient, staff, communities as we go through this, and being at events like this is part of starting that, really. But we're at the early stages of our programme life, really, so we're just on taking the early steps. I think we'll engage with the public much more as we go forward, and forums like this will be really useful for that. So the story for us in terms of estates, in terms of our buildings, we've got some of the oldest buildings, NHS estates buildings in the country. we expect to get, of that massive billions of national money, we expect to get at least 350 million. I think that was a figure that was derived in some mysterious way that we never quite understood, but I think we probably need to spend considerably more than that on our buildings. And on our digital, our latest estimates of what we need to spend on our digital is more again. So I suspect we'll be, 400, 500 million by the time we're done with this, maybe more. So it's a massive programme of investment in Torbay alone. That's hundreds of millions of pounds. And you can see how that is, in the NHS, where we are up against constant challenges, funding challenges, pressure of backlogs and waiting lists, recruitment and staffing problems that we need to try and manage. The opportunity to spend that kind of money in a real way to really improve what we're about is a massive opportunity for us, so it's really exciting. So that money that we spend on buildings, it will largely be on the Torbay Hospital site, but what that does, of course, is it frees up the burden of trying to look at after the sort of antiquated estate that we have. Once we've freed ourselves of that, we'll have opportunities to then invest in buildings that we have elsewhere in Torbay and South Devon. We'll be able to invest in the community services that we deliver and the care that we provide in people's homes as well. So we want to get the site ready for construction. We'll start that next year, we hope, and we'll start undertaking the major part of the start of the major construction works beginning 2025. That's our hope. So by the end of the decade, we should see buildings on the Torbay Hospital site that are radically different from the ones that you currently see when you visit the hospital site now. So our plans continue to evolve and develop, so you need to bear with me. So I can show you an idea of the kind of vision we have, but bear in mind, big pinch of salt, this will change. This is just a design concept at a point in time, but it gives you an idea. For those of you that may be familiar with the Torquay Hospital site, that's a kind of aerial view there. And we have quite a confined site in where the Torbay Hospital is, and it's on tricky topography as well. It's awkward sort of on a hill, and it's uneven levels. So it's a really difficult place to try and plan a major infrastructure improvement project on. So what you're seeing on the slide there is we plan to demolish a load of buildings, clear the site, build some new buildings, refurbish some of our existing buildings and extend them and add to them, okay? So this rather colourful map kind of shows a bit of our early thinking, if you like, but as I say, it will change. So the purple blocks are the important ones in terms of new build. So down in the bottom you see a sort of square with a hole in it. We call it the donut when we're talking in the office. So we've got the square at the bottom there. That will be a new elective care centre. So that will be for planned care, planned surgeries and so on. So that would be a new site dedicated to that kind of care, a new building dedicated to that kind of care on the existing Torbay Hospital site. And then towards the top of the picture there you see a purple block, and that will be new bed-based ward, acute ward care. So we will re-provide all the beds in the hospital in modern fit-for-purpose buildings on the existing site. And there are other slides I could show you of all the stuff we've got to demolish to be able to do that. Okay, there's a load of buildings, 20-odd buildings we've got to sort of take down and clear before we can build those on those two big areas of the site. The light blue area in the middle, that's our emergency department, if any of you have been unfortunate enough to have to go there. And what we plan to do is completely gut and refurb that emergency department and extend it into areas that are currently occupied with some of our day case theatres. So new improved extended emergency department, brand new wards, new elective care centre, and then in the green block there you see some of our existing buildings, that's children and women's health and some other bits there. That will be maintained through our normal capital budgets. We've got a lot of investment to do there to maintain those buildings, but they will stay on the site. The red block is what we call the old Edwardian stock, the old original hospital building that's on the site, and that will be taken out of use essentially by this programme and mothballed. We don't have plans to demolish it at the moment, we don't have the money to demolish it at the moment, and I think there's conversations about what we might do in a more meaningful way with that building going forward. And then the white building there is the kind of tower block, what we call the towers, the highest part of the site, and that contains a lot of the wards that we currently use, so those will be provided in that new purple block. So a lot of what's in that white tower will be taken out of use, and that could be repurposed as administrative offices and so on. So big physical changes planned for the Torbay Hospital site. Get rid of a load of buildings that aren't fit for purpose. There's all sorts of stuff. And I wandered around the site the other week and I saw a shed, like a garden shed, that someone had to put somewhere to store something. It's remarkable, some of the stuff we've got there. So a lot of the buildings are not fit for purpose. They're not fit and they're not suitable for delivering modern healthcare. So we need to take them down, get them off the site and rebuild modern, fit for purpose buildings that are going to benefit patients and be much, much happier places for staff to come and work in as well. So that's the buildings kind of side of things. And as I say, I imagine by the time we actually build something, the buildings will be different shapes. They might be slightly different, but that's the kind of broad concept of what we're hoping to do. In terms of the digital bit, some of our IT systems are up to 40 years old. I was talking to someone the other day who said, yes, my father used to work here and he remembers that system. And so it's time some of them were long overdue for replacements, many of the systems. So we want to buy an electronic patient record system. Many hospitals have done this around the country already. And it's kind of been mandated now by the government. All hospitals need to get electronic patient. So that will digitise patients' records. It will replace administrative systems. It will replace loads of clinical systems that we use across different parts of the hospital. So buying an electronic patient record system is not a cheap thing to do. We think it will cost something like £60 million to do that. And it will replace a whole bunch of clinical systems that we use to run the hospital, essentially. There are discussions taking place across the peninsula, so Devon and Cornwall, about will we end up with a common system solution, and that's kind of one of the discussions going on at the moment. That may or may not come about, and we'll see how that goes. And we will hopefully improve by investing all of that money in much better systems that make it easier for staff to deliver care, much better buildings. But what we get is better services for people, really, that are using the hospital, and a much better experience for both patients and staff. So that's a really, you can see it's a massive programme. We will spend 400, 500 million pounds on buildings and digital improvements. It's massive, one-off, chance of a lifetime stuff to do. I'm much happier to be doing that than what I was doing before, which is probably cutting budgets and you know, all that kind of stuff, which is kind of part and parcel of working in the public sector as well. So this is, I can't imagine a time when I'll ever get to be involved in something as exciting and progressive as spending hundreds of million pounds to improve the facilities that the people of Torbay will get to use as their health and care services in the future. So it gives you a very quick overview of kind of what it's about, and I'm happy to take any questions. So the government's plan was really to, when they came up with this pot of money, was really to try and deal with the backlog maintenance problems of buildings on the main acute hospital sites. So the government are mandating that we spend it there. But what it will allow us to do is, once you take a load of our problems out of the way on the main hospital site, it frees up our ability to then invest and do much more for the community hospital sites like Brixham. We have hospital in Totnes, Dawlish, Timothy. You know, there are lots of sites where we deliver health and care in South Devon that need attention as well. And of course, what we have is community services where people deliver care directly in the community and deliver care in people's homes. And we plan to do much more of that in the future. So this cannot, for us, only be about the acute hospital site. That might be where the government wants to target the lion's share of the money, but what that needs to do is free us up to do a much better job of delivering care in community sites and in the wider community as well. So I think there's a knock-on benefit, I guess, is for those other places. Yeah.
I would see pilots on mining stuff versus spending the money on the infrastructure. Spending money on the infrastructure, like the new IT systems, and then charging staff to actually use those systems.
Yeah, so the reason it has to be about more than just building buildings is we know we cannot recruit the staff we need now, and that's not a problem that's going to go away. So we have a massive workforce challenge, getting enough staff and getting staff with the right skills to come and work in Torbay to deliver care. That's a massive challenge for us. So what this programme will do, I guess, is it will address, it's capital funding that can only be used on big assets. Yeah, so it's not recurrent funding that would allow us to pay for staff year after year after year. That's not the nature of the offer, I guess. But what it will do is it will give us buildings and tools for staff to work with that are far more attractive to the wider sort of staffing market than the ones we're offering them now. If you gave people a choice of, do you want to come and be a nurse in a spanking new hospital with fabulous digital systems that make your job an absolute pleasure to do, or do you want to come and work in a hospital that has buildings that don't really help you, you know, door systems that break down, IT systems that crash regularly. You know, it's a real challenge for our staff to deliver good quality care with the tools they're given to do it, I think. So I think our challenge is to let's make an attractive offer through this funding we have so that we can draw those people in. But I think there are national challenges about getting enough doctors, getting enough nurses. This will improve Torbay's position, I think, to make an offer to people as a worthwhile place to come and work. You think that makes there's a lot of sense in that, isn't it? And it's one of the things we come back around with. So there's been a bit of a checkered past for the NHS attempting national IT projects.
the information was sent, I could see the X-rays, but my doctor couldn't, and then the hospital couldn't. That's exactly what she had to do after 17 days. Now, that's okay. That's the situation now, but that doesn't look like that's solving it, does it? If you're going to have not going for a nationwide
Yeah. So
system, I don't want to see us waste 200 million on a system that then 5 years time we all have the same system nationwide.
So the NHS hasn't got a great track record in going for big IT projects nationally. Okay, they've tried it and it's generally not gone very well. So what we'll end up with is some different systems around the country, but a lot of them will be common thing. And certainly in our aim in Devon and Cornwall, if we can, is have joined up, integrated approaches to one system operating across the whole network. And that will allow us to share records with GPs and other care providers. So I think at the moment, our technology is nowhere near. We are miles away from that at the moment. So this funding will take us a massive step forward in developing that kind of capability. But obviously, some of the systems we have now are old, they're fragmented, they don't talk to each other, they certainly don't talk to other organisation systems. So it will be a massive step forward. And a lot of the standards, if you buy different systems around the country, a lot of them can be made to talk to each other, or at least the opportunity to do that will be a lot greater than if we don't invest this kind of money in making those kind of improvements. Yeah. There are lots of good examples of health systems around the world. So Australia and other places where they've invested a lot of money in healthcare systems and are way ahead of us. And I think we are playing catch up. And in Torbay, we are definitely playing catch up. And there are places in Britain that are way ahead of us. Yeah. So we've got a huge amount of ground to make up on the digital journey. And it's only with this kind of money that you get anywhere near it, to be honest. So good news for us that we'll be going forward.
Having seen, when we come from West London, we actually had a brand new hospital rebuilt, similar to your plan, knock a bit down, build a new one, 15 years after. My challenge or question to you is, what's the increase in bed lift in your current bed number to what you're going to have? Because 2 previous big hospital builds I've seen in the last 10, 15 years have reduced the bed count, and that's why, and London, as you probably may or may not know, had ambulances queuing outside hospitals for the last 10 years. The rest of the world has seen it up post-COVID. That's business as normal in London because of the lack of long-term beds. So what's the percentage bed lift that you're building into it?
I think lots of people will tell you that ambulances queuing outside hospitals has been business as usual in Devon for a long time as well, probably. Many people might have had experience around that. So we've got problems in Devon around growing population, but ageing population particularly, and also...
number of beds because of all the other aftercare. So from an infrastructure point of view, if you haven't got beds, the whole thing will clog up. You can always turn a ward off. You can't add another ward. So you can always...
Yeah, so part of the requirement here is, can we predict demand and activity ahead in a reasonably accurate way so that we right-size the buildings that we're going to build, okay? And there will be, I anticipate, a growth in the number of beds on the Torbay Hospital site, but that goes hand in hand with providing care in a different way. So we will deliver much more care digitally. We will deliver much more care in the community. We'll deliver more care in people's homes, enabled in ways that we couldn't, that we're nowhere near delivering it in some of these ways at the moment. So I think there'll be a growth in beds for sure. Working through the detail of that now to make sure we plan and right size. And the NHS nationally won't let us pass go with this if they don't believe we're right sizing the hospital. So it's kind of one of the tests we'll have to pass to get the money is if we're building something too small, it's never going to get started. So building the right number of beds, absolutely, but also investing in your digital capability so that you can deliver things non-face-to-face, so that you can enable community teams to work differently and provide care in other settings in a different way than we do now as well, to reduce that reliance on just beds is the answer, build more beds. If you go down that road, you could never build a hospital big enough basically anyway. So it's modernise and right-size and passing various tests along the way to make sure we're getting that right. the NHS is full of difficult challenges, as people will see daily on the news. I guess what we've got here is, there are problems, there are challenges, no doubt. What you've got here is a massive opportunity to invest in a way you'd never be able to otherwise, in both the buildings and the digital side of things. So for me, I guess the story here is, will there ever be enough money? Will you ever get to do all the things you'd like to do? We'll have to cut our cloth accordingly, but it's a massive opportunity to make a big improvement, really. So I'll take one last question.
Integrate the process of getting patients to and from the hospital, because I'm a big user of the NHS, and the challenge has always been to get there, to stay there, finding a parking space, really with the traffic coming in, it's a real difficulty. And obviously we're going to increase the beds and all the opportunities on that side. The massive problem is the logistics of actually getting people there safely and on time. Is there any part of that budget that's addressing that?
So it's an important part of things like parking, green travel plans, how will people get to the hospital, how will we avoid people needing to come to the hospital at all. All of that is part of the planning and thinking going on now. And I'd been really disappointed if car parking hadn't come up, because it's kind of somebody's got to mention car parking surely, because it's horrendous. So we've got challenges like that we need to fix, and it's about that right sizing of the facilities that people are trying to use. It's about making it access to services easier, whether that's physically getting to them or services coming to you, whichever it needs to be. And another part of that is about enabling the information about you and your health needs to follow you into different settings much better than it does at the moment. So, and that's where the digital bit comes in, really. Your GP being able to link in with our information and vice versa. That kind of vertical integration, and also sharing information horizontally across services as well. So, yeah, to reassure you, all of those things you're saying are ringing bells in my head about, we're talking about that, we're thinking about that as part of our planning, absolutely.
Brilliant. Alan, thank you very much. Thanks for your questions. And we're running slightly behind schedule, I'm afraid, but so we'll probably be finishing at about 6:45, just to let anyone who needs to go before then know. But without further ado, if I can introduce Nick Powe, who's going to talk to us about the Geopark.
Thank you very much. Perfect. Well, good evening, everybody. So, yes, thank you very much for that introduction. The Geopark. Oh, there you go, Steve. I'll send you the slides, Steve, that you can have a look through. So I think the first thing to talk about is the naturally inspiring. I mean, this is a slogan that we're beginning to use. And if I just take you a little bit back to what inspired me about the Geopark, when I first got here, I arrived in Torbay about 22 years ago to take over Kent's Cavern. That's my day job. I run the caves. And when I took over, I realised that Kent's Cavern was just an attraction, another attraction amongst quite a few other attractions, all vying for the same kind of market. But I felt that Kent's Cavern needed to be connected to something. And I went around all the caves in the United Kingdom, and I went to Ireland and discovered a concept called the Geopark, which it was brand new, only started in 2000, and I thought this would be perfect for Torbay. And in 2007, that's exactly what we ended up achieving. We ended up achieving the Geopark status for Torbay. Now, the Geopark is not simply about the rocks. Now, you have to have really good rocks, and Torbay has got some extraordinary rocks and some outstanding geology. Geoparks are about places that make a difference. They make a difference both socially and economically. And here in Torbay, we have got some geological periods. We've got 4 key geological periods. There's a Devonian. These are Devonian rocks. And these Devonian rocks, of course, are called Devonian after Devon. And in fact, Torquay is the type locality for the Devonian period of geological time. There is no other period of geological time that's named after a place, and this one is the only one, and Torquay is the type locality. So you can go anywhere in the world and see Devonian rocks, and they were all named after the rocks that were discovered here or identified here in Torquay. The other periods are the Carboniferous, the Permian, which is the red stuff, and then, of course, the Quaternary, which is associated with human occupation, and there we've got an extraordinary connection as well. So around the world, there are 170 geoparks. So only 170 places have this designation. interesting enough, in your neck of the woods, the Gran Canaria, the Lanzarote is a geopark, and so is El Hierro, which is one of the islands right to the left of that series of islands. So they are also UNESCO Global Geoparks. In the UK, there are 8 other geoparks. They include Shetland, the whole of the Shetland Islands, the Brecon Beacons. Half the Brecon Beacons is a UNESCO Global Geopark. And this is the one I really like, because this one really sums up why a geopark is different to other places. The Black Country. So Walsall, Dudley, Wolverhampton, Sandwell, that area is a UNESCO Global Geopark. Why? Because of the Industrial Revolution, because of the rocks that were associated with the workshop of the world, and it's that human story, that connection to economic development, and of course that repurposing today of those that area, which gives it the right to become recognised by UNESCO. So science, education and culture, well, that's of course what UNESCO stands for, ESCO, Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization. UN, of course, is the United Nations. That's what the UNESCO stands for. So the United Nations, it's a United Nations program, and it's what they're looking to see in any geopark is some developments in this area. And these 3 elements, of course, the science, the knowledge, the education, and combining it with a cultural offer, that is what makes a cultural experience, a cultural tourism experience, to develop the area and to make sure that the people that not only who live here and work here enjoy living here, but also those that to put the English Riviera on a global tourism, or make it a global tourism destination. Geoscience, of course, is very important, and of course that, as we all know, is the site of the famous rockfall with Rougemont House on top that was originally down at Oddicombe. So we have got this geohazards, which maybe here are not as obvious as volcanic activity and earthquakes, but we certainly have our own issues that we can demonstrate and link those to other issues around the world. So let me move on to this slide. Now, Torbay. Now, the geopark is the whole of Torbay. And I say that because so many people refer to the geopark as the play area down at Paignton, which is part of the geopark, but it is, of course, the geoplay area. But the geopark is the whole of Torbay. If you are in Torbay, whether you're on the coast, whether you're inland, whether you're in the town centre, whether you're in the marine environment going out across the bay, you are in the UNESCO Global Geopark. It covers the whole administrative authority of Torbay. And I think that is quite nice because it kind of connects the whole bay. And for me, that was one thing I really liked about this designation, because it actually it gave this sort of the sense of the whole bay, and not just Torquay's one thing, Paignton something else, and Brixham something else, which is great, but this really brings it all and umbrellas the whole bay. Now, partners, we run the organisation as a partnership organisation, so it's not a membership organisation as such, so we don't have buying or people that buy into the Geopark concept. We work with our partners. It is entirely funded by Torbay Council. Torbay Council are the only body that has put any money into this. The other partners, of course, put their time and put their efforts and develop projects, but in terms of core funding, it is Torbay Council that supports this, and that's been happening since 2007. So I'm very grateful to them, really, because without it, we would not have this UNESCO status. So who are the core partners? Well, actually, most of you are represented here. It's Torbay Coast and Countryside Trust, Torbay Council, the Community Development Trust, the bid company, the English Riviera bid company, the tourism company, South Devon College, of course, the museums, Kent's Cavern, Plymouth University. Those are the core partners. But we also have associate partners. There's 20 or so at the moment, and nice to see Tailblazers in the room. There we are, one of our partners as well, and some of you also may well be partners, associate partners. These are partners who kind of see the values of what the UNESCO Geopark label stands for and use it in their own offers to the public, to visitors, and to the people who live and work here, because it promotes their own priorities as well. And I think there's definitely, obviously, a need to align Torbay, the Geopark, to the Torbay story, of course, the story of place. We need to be associated much closer. And maybe the Geopark can have a big role in this whole project. But maybe the management of the Geopark needs to change, and maybe that's something we need to look at, is how we actually manage the Geopark, and maybe we need to reshape it in line with what we're all talking about now, so that we're not something over here and somebody's over here. We're actually all inclusive and driving forward with one ambition. Well, UNESCO, of course, don't like their name being used in vain, and they insist on a revalidation program. So every 4 years, we have to, the Geopark gets revalidated. This is an example of some of the signage that you see around the bay. Now, the Geopark program has been going, it started in 2000, and 15 years later, it became a UNESCO program. It didn't start within UNESCO, it was started by 4 territories in Europe, 4 parks, 4 national parks that wanted to promote their geological heritage. But 15 years later, UNESCO took it and grabbed it and thought, this is perfect for what we want. It's a grassroots initiative designed to celebrate where the rocks come from, but also what's happening in that area. It sits alongside other UNESCO programs like the World Heritage Sites. So the Jurassic Coast is, of course, a World Heritage Site, and also the Man and Biosphere Sites. The Biosphere Sites is one in North Devon, of course, quite similar actually to the Geopark, what the Man and Biosphere Sites are all about. And as far as we're concerned, we kind of work through the UK National Commission for UNESCO, which of course has close links to the DCMS, so we work through the UK National Commission for UNESCO. As I said, revalidation every 4 years, and the next one will be in 2023. And I am an evaluator for Geoparks. I luckily go around some extraordinary places around the world to look at, evaluate new and aspiring geoparks and to do the 4-year evaluations. And I can tell you that around the world there is some extraordinary joined up commitment and investment in promoting the connections and the association with UNESCO. And that is, UNESCO do not like just, let's just put the label up, we're a UNESCO site. They want to make sure that we are not abusing this logo. And if we don't pass these inspections, then it's ripped off, it's taken away. And I suspect there's very little chance of Torbay ever getting a UNESCO label ever again. There is some extraordinary stuff happening out there, a real commitment to what UNESCO stands for in terms of sustainable development, cross-border projects, schools and scientific programs. But we've got some good stuff here. We're doing some really good stuff. The college is working very closely with Finland at the moment, with students sending students to Finland in Rockua, and also to Tanzania, a geopark in Tanzania as well. So there's some really good cross-border stuff going on. Sustainable ambitions are obviously very important. I mentioned that's what UNESCO are looking for. The geopark, interestingly enough, imposes no additional legal or statutory obligations on this area. So this area's planning authority, all the designations that we have, don't change because of this label as a geopark. It has some lobbying effect, of course. You can say, well, hang on, we're a UNESCO geopark, let's not do that. But fundamentally, this does not impose any additional statutory obligations. But of course, our partners want, and core and associate partners want to work and follow a code of conduct, recognising obviously the climate emergency that Torbay Council has declared, and the Geopark itself, of course, has done the same, following environmental policies. And we've developed over the last few years some really nice marine user policies, some environmental policies, and we've worked very closely with Torbay Planning Department to make sure that that we do make sure the valuable geosites, the sites that have geological significance, are not being abused in the development and are being properly either looked after or being replaced or interpreted elsewhere. So of course we have our missions to develop sustainable tourism with our partners, and some of the solutions that we're looking for is maybe looking to with the tourism company to look at ways we could develop a eco-tourism type program where people can join and actually be seen to be sustainable in what they're offering. Let me just turn the page here. There we go. So the Geopark, I think, can definitely support the programs that Torbay's got for its ambitions for 2030. It's definitely something that we can help and support. But I think also importantly, we can also support the drive for what's known as geotourism. And if you look at Visit Britain's kind of research on cultural tourism, then that's all about inspiring people, amazing people, astonishing people. It's about giving experiences that are spiritually enriching, intellectually nourishing. These are all themes that I think we've got here. We've got all this stuff here in Torbay, and I just wonder if we do enough of it, because it is extraordinary what we've got here. And people don't want to just be spectators. They want to immerse themselves and get genuine, authentic experiences of the place. And we can do that. Now, that development of those experiences is really complicated, a very complicated area. Many operators in this area do it very well, but I think we could probably do more to develop unique offers that are really very different to what you can find elsewhere. And of course, I think if we thread sustainability through what we're actually developing, I think we're going to stand a good chance going forward. Now, I mentioned earlier, I think the Geopark management probably needs to take a step change if we're going to deliver some of these solutions. It's one thing to have our partners and work with our partners, but if we're actually going to come up with experiences, that's an altogether different strategy. And I think that's where this Torbay story can certainly help to create something amazing for Torbay around promoting the value of our natural environment and the geographical location that we've got. So if I just 2 more slides just to show you some of the global connections. Of course, being part of UNESCO gives us this wonderful, outreach to places all around the world that all want to work together, that want to that share a common purpose. And I think the GeoPlay area in Paignton is a very good example of what we've done to celebrate the geology. That GeoPlay area, by the way, is the only geologically themed play area in the world. There are 4 themes there. They're all geological themes. There's the Devonian area, the Carboniferous area, the Permian area, and the Quaternary area. So it's pretty subtle. You wouldn't know it, but those nets, for example, are supposed to represent the mountain building processes. So when you go around the coastline, you see all these rocks that have been twisted and turned and folded, and that's through a process called the Variscan orogeny, when 2 continents came together, pushed up the rocks, and that's what those climbing nets are supposed to represent. And so it's not a lecture on geology. It's a very subtle representation of the geology of Torbay, and probably something that we underestimate in terms of what we've got to give our visitors. Of course, we hosted the 2016 conference here in Torbay for UNESCO. That was a fantastic ceremony, which shows that actually the whole conference still resonates through the UNESCO network. They all remember the opening ceremony, which some of you may have had the privilege of being there, but it was an opera, 45-minute opera, presented by local people, telling the story of how the rocks in this area, how they all connect us to the rest of the world. And of course, we regularly host visits from around the world from aspiring geoparks. And as I mentioned, South Devon College, of course, is doing some really nice exchange work at the moment with geoparks in Finland and Africa. So I'm going to finish with this slide, which is my vision and what I'd like to see happening. And of course, it's how on earth we get to this. But Torbay, home of the National Earth Heritage and Human Evolution Experience. Now, wouldn't it be amazing? Wouldn't it be amazing if we took this extraordinary geological heritage that we've got and that we actually created something quite unique in the country, something that was based around our natural environment, something that was based around human evolution, and we've got a phenomenal story to tell. I mean, some of the human occupation in this area can be traced back to 500,000 years ago, to the very first bipedal hominids to come out of Africa, actually came to this area. We've got evidence of that, and it's all down to the geological processes, the land bridges that existed across to continental Europe. We've got the caves, we've got the Ice Age evidence, we've got warm interglacial, so we've got African savannas. We've got this human connection that not only back to prehistory, but comes through every period of history ever since. That's pretty unique. In fact, that's absolutely unique in the world. And we've got an opportunity here, I think, to create something. Now, this experience doesn't have to be one dedicated centre, but it can be a whole selection, a whole connection of experiences that you get around Torbay so that visitors come here. And I think we just have to kind of think a bit differently. So, for example, in Dudley, if you go to Dudley and the Black Country, the travel lodge I stayed in, actually last week, actually, because we had the conference there, there's etchings on the side of a travel lodge of fossils. There are, and quotes by a chap called Sir Roderick Murchison, who was a Victorian geologist. But even the travel lodge takes pride in that. The mayor of Wolverhampton attended the evening, and her jewel has a trilobite in the middle of it. You know, this is an area that is so proud of its heritage and its history and its geological roots. And I just wonder if sometimes we ought to just be a bit proud of our background, and I think we've got an opportunity here to create a national centre that would be of international significance and would really start to bring those cruise ships back that we saw and start to really change the place. So there we go. It's a dream, but I think this is the group to do it through, and I'd like to really see how we can do this. I can't do this single-handedly, of course not, but we can as all together. And I think there's something quite special here that would deliver for Devon that iconic attraction it doesn't have at the moment. Devon does not have an iconic attraction. Cornwall does, and other parts of the country do. Devon doesn't, but I think Torbay is the place for it, and I think this is where we should be focusing. I'll just tell you, every single one of those pictures, of course, was taken in Devon, in the English Riviera. None of them are photoshopped. Most of them were taken during lockdown as I wandered around trying to get great shots. But there we go. Thank you very much. I'll take any questions.
Thank you, Nick. Any questions for Nick? Wow, look at that. No, I think, Alan, you won the competition. Thank you very much, everybody. Just before we finish, and I'm conscious we've overrun by about 15 minutes, but are there any general questions that anyone would like to ask about being champions, about what you've heard tonight and how we can kind of take that out there? We have stunned you into silence. Fantastic. Thank you again for coming. The great news is you go out of what feels like a dark room into a brightly lit space, and it's lovely outside, which is really nice. Just the final thing for me to say, other than thank you, is thank you to our three speakers, and I think a final round of applause, if you will, please. And just to promote the next Champions event, which is on Thursday, the 15th of September, 5 till 6:30 again, and that's at Ockham Farm. Thank you all very much indeed.